Half a day, everyone. This is Ernest Ochoko for Gate Elementary. I will be discussing something called PBL, and I'm taking over Maridel and Davina for today. So please stay with me. What is project-based learning? Well, project-based learning is a teaching method that allows students to learn while doing. As students' learning is driven by interests, curiosity, current events, skills such as problem solving, critical thinking, and creative thinking continue to be developed during the process. Now, what is PBL? Let's go ahead and watch Edutopia, which is also a PBL online resource, and this will also explain a little bit more about it.
Today, we're going to start a new project.
Teachers and their students have been doing projects since forever.
3, 2, 1,
More and more are doing project-based learning. So what's the difference?
That's a great question.
Let's start off by reviewing.
Projects are typically limited in scope and duration. They're a good way for students to work with content they've already learned.
Flip to the paper that says sundial.
In project-based learning, students learn through the project.
Interesting.
They address a real-world problem, a driving question, one that can't be Googled and has no single right answer.
We were talking about how can we prepare for Atlanta's change in weather.
Students have voice and choice in PBL, some input into how they'll answer the driving question.
Does anybody think they might have some ideas?
So they gain ownership of their learning.
So those questions led to our investigation.
They collaborate in a process of sustained inquiry, lasting more than a few days.
We've got a whole lot of work to do.
They reflect on their learning through discussions, formative assessments, and critiques of their peers' work.
We are going to take a look at one of your friends' work today.
And then revise their work based on those reflections.
Now let's see it.
Okay, there we go. We got it.
You can
High five!
The final product is shared with an audience beyond the classroom. Maybe that's professionals in a related field,
I appreciated how thoughtfully you responded.
or it could be the kids in the class next door. When students spend an hour exploring the 4 forces of flight by crafting a Mars lander out of paper, that's a project. When they spend a month simulating a Mars landing, analyzing the math and physics at work, and discussing their work with real aerospace engineers,
And it sounds like you've done a little bit of testing to see if that works.
that's project-based learning.
Capiche?
Research shows that rigorous PBL can result in higher engagement and deeper content knowledge.
You're rocking it. Keep it up, okay?
Learn more about project-based learning at edutopia.org.
All right, so that is from Edutopia. I hope you enjoyed it. Now I want to talk to you about the Buck Institute for Education. They are dedicated to improving 21st century teaching and learning throughout the world by creating and disseminating products, practices, and knowledge for effective project-based learning. They were founded in 1987. So a lot of this stuff is like 21st century teaching methods. So this is really great for us. Now, let's move on to the next thing. How do you distinguish between a project and project-based learning? I know that kind of confused me when I first began project-based learning. Projects can be done alone. Project-based learning requires collaboration and teacher guidance. Projects are about the product. Project-based learning is about the process. So, it's about the journey, right? Not the destination. That kind of thing, and learning throughout, of course, the journey. Projects are teacher-directed, and project-based learning is student-directed. Projects sometimes lack real-world context. Project-based learning is based on real-world experiences and problems. Like, for example, the changing weather in Atlanta. That was the question that was posed to the students, and the students had to figure out how to address that. Projects occur after the real quote-unquote learning is done. Project-based learning is real learning occurs through the entire project. All projects have the same goal, so the same outcome at the end of your project. All of your students have to have the same type of outcome, right? Project-based learning, students' choices determine the outcome. For example, let's go ahead and go back to the Atlanta changing weather. Let's say at the very end, the outcome would be student creates better textiles for snow that will keep you warmer. And another student group will also figure out a way to do that, but they created a heater, a portable heater that you can walk around with. So those are two different results, two different outcomes for project-based learning. Moving on, project-based learning helps students pique their interest, because sometimes it's hard for us to keep their attention in class, but this really helps them pique their interest. They stay engaged in the classroom discussion, in the classroom and the subject. They have ownership of learning. We'll discuss more about that in the processes of project-based learning. It is student-paced. There's trial and error, and there is no wrong way to do it. So that helps students a lot. Teachers, it covers multiple standards all at once. For example, let's say the Mars landing. So that covers math, that covers science, that covers English, right? So there are different things that are covered all at once. You become a facilitator. Next, it helps students work on their own or in small groups. It also helps multi-level grouping sometimes when you're able to, if you have enough students. It also reinforces 21st century skills. Now, next, we have when students engage in PBL. These are some benefits that students experience. So one of my favorite ones is thinking out of the box. They think divergently. They're able to answer and process and attack situations or attack problems from different ways, right? And that's kind of like the creative thinker. And you need to have creative risks to be able to do that. You need to be able to take creative risks and to be brave. They're more engaged in learning. They're more passionate. It's just, PBL is just all around a very good way to engage students. Moving on. The Buck Institute for Education identifies 7 key design elements for project-based learning. It's kind of like an engineering design. So let's go through each step. Number 1, question or problem, usually real-life inspired, inquiry-based or interest-based, right? Like the changing weather. Students research for background information. So they research the weather and they talk about how they talk amongst themselves about how they can address the situation. Number 3, authenticity is student generated. Every project will be unique. Number 4, student voice and choice, ownership of learning. Number 5, reflection or self-assessment. So you have to really be honest with how you're assessing yourself. Peer assessment, that's other people's opinions of your presentation. Rubrics and checklists. Number 6, critique and revision. That's when you take the critiques or the suggestions from your peers and you revise your product. Let's say the textile for changing weather or your portable heater. And you take all of the good suggestions that will help to improve your product. And number 7, public product sharing. So you can share your results with people. Okay, next. Think of steps for PBL. Think of a real world problem or question. What do you want to get out of the project? Do you want to, like for example, the changing weather? You want to get a better product that will help people stay warm. But what are the possible solutions? You can think of the textile, you can think of the heater, you can think of, what else is there? Oh, food that might help increase the heat of your body or something like that, right? So there are possible solutions and you want to think about those things. Outline the steps to achieve the goal, like I mean, you can imagine all of the different ideas and suggestions for that. Research, tinker, test, retest, and share. Here is a real life example that we can use nowadays. What can we do to protect ourselves during this pandemic? That's the question. Mask mania. It's mandatory to wear masks when we are in public or in school. So that will be our problem, right? Now, how do we solve it? We solve it through a mask. And then what are the problems of the mask that we currently have? They're kind of tight. It hurts my ears, right? Or they're too loose and they're falling off my face. How are they protecting me? Or it's too hot and I can't breathe and can't see my mouth or the person's mouth. I don't know if they're smiling or not, or it looks ugly. So we have to kind of figure out how to fix those problems. So steps, we gather the materials, we gather the masks, and we have some parameters, of course, that are set. Plan, we plan the design, we plan the details, the aesthetics, the functions. If we want a mask that we can see the mouth, we can put like a clearer fabric there, but it's still, or like a plastic, but it has like holes or fabric around it so that you can still breathe, right? But you can still see the person's face, or things like that, right? Then you create it and then you test it out. And you present it, and then people will give you their suggestions or their feedback. You modify it, you test it again. And once it's done with the testing process, you can share. That's a great idea. So here are a few others for distance learning. How to assign PBL for distance learning. Using the PBL elements as a guide, create a timeline or have the students create their timeline. At each checkpoint, students can send in a short paragraph on their progress, what they have done, learned so far, send in pictures, a video conference with you. So you can do that. When students have completed their project, they can present it. They can create a clip and present it to the other students and also to the media, right? Or host a video conference with you or with members of the media. I want to give you a few more suggestions on PBL. You can do growing gardens, right? We don't have supplies coming in regularly, so the question that you would answer or ask is, how do we solve not having enough produce? Right, so you can grow gardens. Sustainability projects, right? Invention convention. You can redesign houses, schools, playgrounds, so that it'll be better for COVID, right? So that we can stay safe. How to improve Wi-Fi in school, because that's a huge real world problem right now. We lag, right? Transportation ideas. How do we fix the bus problem and still stay safe in the buses when we're going to school? Standards that can be covered include communication, divergent thinking, creativity skills, math, science, ELA, and health. All right. Last but not least, we have PBLU, PBL Works, and Edutopia. These are great websites to get more information on PBL. This is a really great way to connect with your students. And here are some articles and references. I hope that you consider PBL as one of your major teaching tools in the classroom. Thank you very much and have a great day.